Hey everyone, Becky Cross here. I'm the Vice President of Client Services here at Fit Technologies, and I've been with the organization for about 6.5 years. I'm meeting today with Angela Glasgow, the COO of Frontline Services, and we're just going to talk a little bit about their organization and our partnership over the last few years. So Angela, if you wouldn't mind just letting us know a little bit more about your role with the company and what you're doing today.
Yeah, I'm Angela Glasgow. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Frontline Services. I've been there for a little bit over 8 years. I came over as their Director of Integrated Care and actually got pretty involved with Fit from the very beginning because we were just starting our implementation of our electronic medical record, which you guys were heavily involved in.
Awesome. And so at what point did you move into the COO role?
I have been in that position for almost 4 years. It'll be 4 years come summer.
Wow, time flies.
You're kidding. Telling me.
Great. So tell me a little bit about your organization, when it was started, the purpose and mission of Frontline, and sort of the objectives you guys aim to achieve every year.
Sure. So Frontline Services started over 30 years ago, and we started as a very grassroots organization, really focused on outreach. Frontline is actually our third name. Our first name was Money in Mailboxes, and that was exactly what it sounds like. We realized that individuals that were coming out of the state hospitals that were severely mentally ill weren't receiving their benefits because they were homeless, and so they didn't have an address. And so we created a bricks and mortar, so they literally had an address that they could attach to their benefits, and so their benefits would be sent to our building and they could receive their entitlements, and then we worked on a housing plan to get them off the streets. And in addition to that, we would do outreach out into the community, going out to encampments, under bridges. It was a really homelessness was really on the rise at that point, and so we would go into those areas and outreach them in order to get them linked up with our services and hopefully create a pathway to housing for them.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about how you evolved to the company you are today then.
Yeah, so from the Money in Mailboxes, we just continued to expand our services, got involved with the crisis and trauma, and eventually became mental health services, where we created a case management team, we provided psychiatric care, still focused on homeless, disabled people and individuals in crisis and dealing with trauma. We switched over to Frontline Services because of the stigma attached with mental health services. We really wanted to create a safe place for people to come and receive services. And we now operate the largest continuum of services in the state, actually, from our crisis and trauma department to our homeless and outreach services, and to services we provide as part of the Housing First Continuum, which is services on site at our permanent supported housing. And those are it is independent living for folks that were chronically homeless, so homeless for a year or more.
So, through growth and development and serving these vulnerable populations, I'm sure there have been challenges along the way. Talk a little bit about some of the challenges you guys have faced and how IT has helped play a supporting role in that.
Yeah, so I think the biggest issue or the biggest opportunity for us was charts. So, we have to chart everything on the client as well as any service that we provided. And then there was kind of an antiquated way that you got billed for those services, because we have a lot of grant funding, but we also bill the state for Medicaid. And so that documentation, really we needed to convert to an electronic medical record. So about 8 years ago, we implemented a NetSmart product called Evolve. And Fit was peripherally there providing support, but they really started to come in and take a project management role. At least this was my experience with them, because I had just joined the organization. And they were heavily involved in the implementation, the training, and really the building of the system. Not here to promote Evolve or NetSmart, but one of the great things about Evolve is that you can build everything in it. And so we got trained as super users and really developers. So we were able to go in and create our own assessments, create our own events, and that way we didn't rely on NetSmart to find time to create the things that we needed. And Fit was side by side with us through that entire implementation, which was a lengthy implementation.
Can imagine.
Because we're a very sophisticated, complicated. You know, we have over 300 employees and probably 25 to 30 different programs. So creating the events that were specific for those programs was really tedious. And so when I say side by side, I mean, I really mean side by side.
Even till today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. Talk a little bit about IT security. So this is a global issue. It's in headlines everywhere. People are talking about it and have been for several years.
Yes.
Talk to us about cybersecurity and the size of an organization of yours and how you faced that.
Yeah, so it's interesting. You wouldn't think that ransomware would be relevant in a nonprofit organization, but it is. And we got hit with an attack about 2 years ago in February, and it crippled us. It shut us down completely. I should say FIT shut us down completely within, I would say, I'd have to look at the actual timeline, but I bet it was 2 hours, and everybody was down. All of our services were down in order to protect us, not because they weren't working.
Right.
Your team, headed by Jack Wu, had us up and running and laptops into our folks' hands within 24 hours. So they took us completely down, put us on another network, and our primary services were up and running within 24 to 48 hours. And then we did a major deployment of laptops out to all of our workers that were out in the community and transitioned to a remote workforce, which was incredibly important when the pandemic hit. So when that pandemic hit 30 days later, we were way ahead of most of the other services, social service agencies, because we already had laptops and remote work in folks' hands. So,
yeah, talk a little bit about that, right? How do you feel Frontline was prepared from a technology perspective for COVID?
Really well.
Yeah.
I can't even say enough about what the unintended consequences and the positive outcome that those consequences had in setting us up to move fully remote. We are considered frontline workers by name as well as by description, and so we never shut our doors. So we continued to provide face-to-face services at a very scaled down, but we still did not want staff in the building.
So talk a little bit about your future dreams for Frontline. Where are you guys going and what does that look like?
We were talking about earlier your all-staff meeting being virtual. Well, we haven't been able to hold an event for, this will be the third year. Like, we probably could have gotten away with it this year, but it seemed too risky with the oscillation in the rates. So really trying to re-engage people around giving, and it's hard for people to give when they can't see it. But when you can't come out and volunteer, you can't come out and attend an event, that money starts to not have relevance to the people that are giving. So we really want to try and figure out how do we re-engage donors, because we are a nonprofit and those dollars mean something to us.
Absolutely. So if dollars were no object, what?
Does that world exist?
It could.
Okay.
Could. Somebody might statistically hit the jackpot.
Yeah.
If money was no object, what IT solution or tool would you feel would be ideal for Frontline in order to drive your mission and help bring that restoration forward?
Yeah, I think just understanding, like, IT can be so incredibly complicated, and so a resource where people can get real-time understanding of what is happening and how those, almost like a training port of some, because it changes so quickly. So how do you keep up on that? Like, you guys, that's your world. So, you're far ahead of that. But, someone that just uses a computer and knows how to turn it on, like, what else can it do? I'm lucky because I have the opportunity to be very connected with FIT and your team. But there's so many other folks that don't, and it's so hard to get that information out to them. So I think probably more training and more easily accessible and understandable resources that just kind of break it down into layman's terms.
All right.
Yeah.
That may not be so far off the wish list. You never know.
I like it.
You never know. Great. Well, if there was one thing you wanted to leave our organization with as something to think about or know about your organization, what would it be?
I think just that, we're here. We provide 24/7 crisis services, and I talked a lot about the vulnerable, disabled population, but our mobile crisis team and our child mobile crisis team is available for any and everybody. And so if you're suffering, if you're having, depressive thoughts, or know somebody that's in some type of behavioral health crisis, you can call. It's not it's you, or if you're worried about a neighbor or a friend, that line operates, 216-623-6888.
Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
And as always, we've loved our partnership
Yes.
and look forward to this future training library we just talked about.
I can't wait.